Mayor and Council, I have the budget worksheet. We did receive all the certified values from the appraisal district. We have those in there. We've also received some additional numbers for projections since we have another operating month of expenses. I do have a budget before you that is balanced, and the process for this is once we vote tonight on the proposed budget, we will post that out for public viewing. We also go to the newspaper tonight. After this meeting, I'll have to go in there and present, put the spreadsheet together that's going to go in the newspaper, and it will be presented out to where everyone has access to it. They can make comments, and they will receive the notice of public hearing. We've been posting that in the last few editions of newspaper. So that will be August the 19th is when we'll have our public hearing and the actual vote on the budget and tax rate. That being said, this is a budget based on, and if you go to your second page here that says your tax rate analysis, right there, with your tax rate analysis, you have your current tax rate of 0.6813 per $100 values with the revenue that collects, and that goes towards maintenance and operations and debt service. Last year's values, average values for the city of Crockett was $74,501. That was the average values of homesteaded residences, of residences in our district, in our taxing district. This year, the average values went to, and if you see there on the very bottom, the property values averages went to $91,353. So the averages, the average homestead value increased by almost $20,000. So the numbers that we're presenting to y'all tonight, if the values increase and the tax rate stays the same, we will collect higher revenue, right? So by law, we're required to only collect 3.5% additional revenues over last year. And so just by default, we're automatically going to have to lower our rates in order to not increase our revenues over 3.5%. So if you see a decrease, we're required to do that to go under the 3.5% threshold of what we're allowed to collect in additional revenues. If you want to lower that even further, the following rate is so you have the no new revenue rate. That means we're going to have to lower it even further to where we only collect the same amount of money as we did last year. Other than the caveat of collecting a little bit for new construction. New construction is not held against you. If somebody builds a new home, then that's new revenue into the city that we can take benefit from. Or they double the size of their business and they build an additional warehouse, then those are new revenues. Those don't count against us. It's just based on an appraisal value because the comp values in this neighborhood or down this street started selling for more, so they reassess those values. So the two rates, you have four rates really before you: 68 cents, 0.6813. Then you have the no new revenue rate. That's the lower of the two rates that we have to set in order to bring in the same amount of revenue as we did last year. So that means the same amount of revenue minus the new values, which is about $34,000. We get about $34,000 in additional revenue from new construction and new values. And then the voter approval rate is about in between the two, and that allows us to get in last year's revenue plus 3.5%. And then we have the de minimis rate. That's enough to bring in last year's revenue plus 500,000. That's a 500,000 increase, and those are typically set when you want to do a one-time purchase. Like we have a specific need that we need to increase the rates to address a need in that budget. It's allowed for smaller cities under 30,000 population, so we have to publish those. That being said, your draft budget before you, along with, if you see that second sheet that I have there that says budget increases and impact sheet, These are all the notable or significant changes to our budget over last year. That being said, last year, the same employees that work for us doing the same job as they did, providing the same services. Plus these right here. These are the changes to the budget. One is a cost of living, and it's an average of 3%, but it's a base rate of 75 cents flat. It's a flat base rate increase of 75 cents. That way the higher paid employees do not get a greater percentage than the lower paid. If we're providing cost of living, groceries cost the same for everybody. If we're providing cost of living, then everybody should get amount, not the better paid employees get a higher percentage of that cut. And so for a flat rate cost of living wage increase for employees, we did not give one last year. Right now our CPI increase is about 8%. It's actually almost 9%. So of the three, this is a 3% towards that 9% that we're technically behind when we did a wage adjustment in 2022. So 2022 was the last year we gave that. Animal shelter operational expenses, the animal control officer and attendant is an estimated $75,000. That's what we budgeted in this year. There's two things to that I need to make note of. The animal control officer is already currently hired. That's not a new hire. But however, he's an animal control officer without an animal control shelter. So he's like an officer without handcuffs or a jail. You can't address the problem dogs and get them out and get them rescued and adopted out without the ability to take them to a place. So that encompasses his salary plus an attendance. We need to be sure that we have somebody there around the clock, not around the clock, daily. We don't need to skip a days. The dogs have to be fed and watered and everything and taken care of, and or cats or any other animals that we have there. And then the operational expenses. The second point to make on that is the county has reached out to us, and they are interested in entering into negotiation to help us pay for some of these expenses. We believe that it could cover about half of our expenses based upon their current proposal. That being said, that they still have to go through their budgeting process, and I have to assume the worst. I have to set this budget because we do not have time for a contingency in it. We're going to assess this budget, and if we do get assistance from the county, because I do believe that if we provide shelter services with an animal control officer and take care of that, we're going to become a vacuum for county problems as well. You know, if the county does not have that access to a shelter, so they realize that and have agreed to work with us on that. The other change was the utility office clerk. We currently have one position back there, and as we mentioned before, by bringing in a utility clerk would allow for the promotion of our current lady that works in the utility office and give some backup for her, as well as allow her to take over finance roles that she's already currently in training for and could help us on. This year, just since last year, oil, asphalt rock, the chip rock, and the materials that we use for street construction have increased quite a bit. It's specifically the oil and the asphalt. I'm asking for an additional 30%. This budget increases our street maintenance line item from $350,000 to $450,000. Almost 30% increase in the amount of money that we're allocating towards street construction to be sure that we can stay in line and or exceed previous year's construction. This also provides for one additional firefighter. During our budget workshops, it was asked for 5 firefighters. Council, after looking at numbers and stuff, they said to present a draft budget with 1 firefighter. This does include the 1 firefighter position. And this also only accounts for 1.5% increase in garbage rates, where we're taking some of the hit on the garbage rate increases and increasing it only by 1.5% instead of 3% to the public. That's how it's currently presented. That being said, if council is going to go, this is with a proposed budget of a voter approval rate. This allows us the 3.5%. That's $91,000. If you see on your tax rate analysis, that provides a $91,000 from our baseline from last year. So if we're going to go back to the no new revenue rate to flatline our budget revenue, we need to find about $91,000 in cuts.
So so if we go with the voter approval rate?
That's the voter approval rate. The current budget with all these items in it, the animal shelter, the firefighter, the $100,000 increase in maintenance budget, and the COLA, this is all accounted for in the current budget at voter approval rate.
Well, what I want bring to your attention on the with all that, I want to discuss that. I want to make the motion basically on that. The COLA, being that it's been a 2 year, and then we're just now becoming the council, we need to understand better the protocol of how you all have been evaluating the employees, understand employee salaries, things like that before we decide to give a cost of living rate. I would say we need to visit this next year, being that they just received, y'all just received a raise 2 years ago. So that will help me, once we get that information about the salaries, if y'all do evaluations, what's the protocol of how you decide a person gets a cost of living raise? So that's what we want to know better. Another thing, on the animal shelter, I would suggest as well that we look at that on next year, being that the county has to look at their budget and figure out what they can help us with. So it will be a better discussion on next year. So that way we'll have our budget, we can discuss then, and they can discuss as well, and we can put it together on next year. Being that we have to wait on the new sheriff to be elected or whatever, or put in place, we need to, I would suggest that we need to wait on that. Those are the two items that I'm looking at. I know that we also had talked about on the budget, I think you had talked about, and I'm not for sure, I'm looking about like cameras over at the Civic Center. Okay, I don't think I want to exclude those.
These aren't in the. These aren't in this. These aren't in this budget.
Okay. So the cameras.
Only at the Civic Center, but you want them everywhere else?
No, we don't want, no.
Oh.
Because you stated Civic Center and.
There's several city buildings.
Okay, we want to exclude the cameras. I would like to make that recommendation on excluding the cameras. On the signs that we were discussing about coming into the city.
Those are all, none of these are part of our operating budget. Those are all items that for ARPA funds.
Okay. Well, I just want to place that on there, but.
The capital request.
Okay. But in place of that, I would like to place the swimming pool on the budget. So if we can address that.
In this budget?
If it's in this budget or ARPA funds, what do we use to, the pool? What do we use to address the pool? It's already.
We've had public hearings, and I brought it to the council at our last meeting.
Right.
That we've applied for a Texas Parks and Wildlife grant to pay for half of it.
But it's not a guarantee that we'll get.
No, it's definitely not.
So
but we have to go through that process
But before
to
you
know
put
whether
the-
we're going to get it.
Before you put put it in the budget, you want to see if we get a response. We've applied. You still have to wait on a grant response before you would advocate. You wouldn't start
But
it.
even if we wait on can we go ahead and approve it? And then if the grant comes through,
the funds for what we can do with the pool is already approved. To build the pool to be bigger and better.
We don't have to have bigger.
Yes, we do need a better pool. I mean,
Okay,
because just from having used it, you want a pool that's functional, that the kids can use it for a school event. And so right now, what's budgeted, it is enough budget for a pool, but a pool that's going to be obsolete in a couple of years is just an exercise in futility. You want the best pool. It doesn't, that money is appropriated. So we could build a little pool that's not functional.
Well, if we add,
But to take the budget money from that, I mean, it's not gonna, if you're gonna wait another year, it doesn't matter. At this point, that we couldn't wait for those funds to see if they're approved. If the funds get approved, we won't have to put up money from out of the budget. We'll be able to move forward with it. But it is enough appropriated already, but it's not for a big Olympic pool. And that's what we're shooting for, a better pool so that people will be able to compete. A small pool is nice, but it doesn't meet this community size. The ones that are using it, kids want to learn how to swim for real, they want to compete. And if we wait to hear from the grant, we're not going to build a pool this fall, even if we had the money. It's not that time. It's not that kind of rush. We could do the same amount when we heard and then take action. But we don't need to appropriate money that could be used right now in this budget, like the cost of living for people. Everybody needs a cost of living, whether you look at the big budget or the little budget. Nobody's bills change. Food went up on everybody. So that's, to me, it's more important to put that money to make sure that every employee, not just one, every employee will get the cost of living. Not the people with the high salary, not the people with the low salary. Everybody would have the same cost of living rate. That's what when you work, I mean, that's as fair as it can get. Do you respect the people that are lower paid, or do you respect the people that are higher? The cost of living rate said that everybody gets it across the board. And it's not on performance and that kind of thing. It's based on costs go up, we increase your pay. It may not seem like a lot, it won't, when you do it like that, but anything will help if you're working on a paid job and you get a pay increase. And that's across the board. I feel that taking care of people is very important, and in terms of what we need. Why it's a wonderful thing to have a pool. I've been pushing the pool ever since I came. I was prepared to build it on a real streamlined budget, and then I saw that pool. Even as I became more educated about it, pools are important. But if you're not going to get bangs for your bucks, your pool is just a little pond, and it's not going to meet the needs. If we get what we were shooting for. So right now in this budget today, people have to eat. They have to go to do the thing. So it is more beneficial to look at what we're going to do for that. And then also in terms of the animal shelter, I don't know if y'all have a problem with dogs like I do. They come through my yard, they tear down things, they attack people. I walk in the morning, there are loose dogs, and we need to do something about them before people get. We need an animal shelter, and we need somewhere to send them. I mean, those are immediate needs. Like I said, I'm a 5:30 walker, and people let dogs out all night. Every kind of dog. I mean, big dogs, little dogs, walking dogs. But those are immediate needs in this budget. What we're saying, what the people want right now, what they need right now, are the things that the community need. But the pool is wonderful. I love the pool. That's like I said, that was the first thing I negotiated. I went out to the pool when they were done, and I didn't believe that you couldn't fix it. I stood in the center of the pool, I jumped up, and it went like rubber. I didn't know that concrete could bounce. And then the guy walked me through the electrical part. He showed me that the wires were loose because the pool had shrunk. And he said it's a wonder that someone didn't get electrocuted. So at that point, I said, yes, this is dangerous. It's going to kill somebody. We don't even need to take the risk, because I was a frequent goer of the pool, and And so it's not that I'm for the pool. Y'all know I love a pool. But the problem is right now is balancing the budget on things that are going to benefit the majority of the people in the community. Beyond our one little designated area, I love that. But what would be the most beneficial? And to me, thinking about putting a cost of living raise is just a powerful thing. I'm sorry.
Amen.
That's my soapbox.
All right.
Go ahead, Donna.
I would like to make a motion.
Well, we're not through with the rest of the budget.
I'm
Yes,
still,
I said we're not through with the rest
okay,
of the
well, I
budget.
won't say anything else until we're ready.
Yeah, well, you can make it, I mean, as soon as we finish discussing, we haven't finished the items.
Okay, I'm sorry I can't pull it up because I tried to transmit it to the TVs and the TVs are frozen. So that being said, the rest of this is all your maintenance and operations budget. The one-time item expenses, the capital purchases, such as the welcome signs or a swimming pool, those are all capital expenses. This is our operational M&O budget. This is our operations budget, not any other purchases like capital expenses. The debt service is at the end. You'll see the debt service and the special revenue. Special revenues are grants that are funded. So each year as we receive these funds, we bring them back to council for budget amendments as new monies are received. For instance, if we did receive the Parks and Wildlife grant, that's the budget that it would go into, and we would bring that back to council. Debt service, that's the current debt that we're already committed to paying. And so anything outside of that is just maintenance and operations, not any purchases, like one-time purchases. Is there anybody else that, I did have a couple council members that was talking about, well, the voter approval rate, no new revenue rate. Is there any way to go in between to where we don't have to go all the way up to the voter approval rate? Absolutely. And these are some of the easiest items to go in. Yes, I could go in and nickel dime some of these. These are all based on current expenses, fuel, utilities, insurances, actual costs, and I project it through the end of the year and I present y'all's next year's budget. So if I go and start removing the line items and adjusting those, we stand a chance to also run over our budget. These are items that we're not committed to currently that we can change, and that would come off of the voter approval rate and lower that even further if council wants to make things that we're not committed to first, other than things that we've already committed to and we're going to have to lay off personnel or stop certain services.
So basically, so you're saying that the COLA and the animal shelter wouldn't suffice the pool. Is that what you're saying?
Oh no, not even close.
And the cameras.
All of that together.
And the signs.
So all the money that we have right now currently in any of our either ARPA funds or our other cash reserves are insufficient for a swimming pool unless we go back and completely redesign that pool and make a smaller, more residentially streamed type of swimming pool instead of a commercial municipal swimming pool. If we did that, then absolutely. I mean, some small pools cost less than $100,000. But for a municipal,
You got to decide what size. Because you said Olympic size. Do we need
it's
Olympic
half.
size?
So no. It's half of Olympic size, and that's what we had currently.
So what you said? What we had previously?
That's a half of Olympic size.
Half of Olympic size.
But it was.
Okay.
It's a 75-foot, 80-foot pool.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty good sized pool. That's pretty typical for a smaller community like ours.
Right,
It would fit around 200 people probably at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the designs that we currently have, but like I said, those are all capital expenses. Those are one-time off budgets, not a maintenance and operations budget. This is our operations budget for the year, not capital expenses like a swimming pool.
Mm-hmm.
I can bring that back to council
Okay.
if council wants to move towards the swimming pool.
Okay. Now what about the arena? Port Agri. I mean, it needs update.
Yes, many
needs to be
updates.
updated, so, and it needs a lot of work done. So how do we go about addressing that as well? So I'm
Through
looking at.
capital expenditures,
Okay.
through capital expenditures, raising additional funds, not under our maintenance and operations that fund our year-to-year operational expenses.
All right, so where would we stand on our budget increases, the impact sheet? So between the no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate, where would we stand there on, I mean, as far as coming out all right?
So if you see that, I have a further breakdown of choosing each one of these, what your annual tax value, your tax expense would be. And so for the no new revenue rate, you're looking at 576. For the voter approval rate, the higher road that includes all of this is 597. So it's a difference of roughly $20 a year for the average home. If we're to
But I mean, to meet,
capture these increases.
to meet this.
Yes, to meet this versus the lower of the two would be about a $20 difference. If we're going to shave some of this out, we would be cutting down on that $20 delta.
Well, I mean, you're talking about shaving some of it out, but I mean, as I look at it, everything pretty much looks like it's bona fide need. Am I right or am I wrong?
I feel like it was after presenting it to council during budget workshops, and they said that these are the things that we need to budget for.
Well, that's what I thought.
Well, you said that if you had some monies left, like on animal shelter, can you look into redoing the animal shelter?
Right.
But what
For the ARPA funds.
Yes, but what I was asking on that is, I had talked with you also, I think, during council meeting, and I was telling you that we were needing more clarification on the expenses of this operation. So I was wanting to either visit or talk with some other cities that has this, because we know that expense of taking care of animals, and not just that though, is like if we have to prepare ourselves, if we are come up against some type of suit, to where we have to be prepared.
We have insurance for that. Just like TML came and spoke with us
Yeah,
today.
but we
have
just
insurance for
yeah, but we
lawsuits.
just need to be prepared for as the cost.
Absolutely, and that's
Okay.
what I did.
Because that
was-
cost is gonna be extreme, because we just had a dog, just had a dog that had surgery on her leg, and it cost $3,000 just for that surgery. Now, this
That's
was.
something we wouldn't be paying.
We wouldn't be paying for that because we got
You won't go
a
that far
vet.
with the animal
Yeah,
shelter.
no, we don't know what we'll
That's
be
a
paying.
personal
But the thing
dog.
of it is we don't know what we'll be paying, because we don't have anything in writing. We don't have a plan.
These are all based on projections.
Projections,
And it's a
okay.
budget that we will have to, if we're.
But this is the
if we-
expense to the city though, overall.
Sure.
This will be an expense to the city, so this will not bring in revenue, so we'll constantly.
It's a
be
service.
pouring out.
It's a
It is
service.
It's a
not-
service
yeah.
that the city has.
Up to that amount. I also won't exceed this amount without council approval. So if we do exceed this amount, and we come back and say, hey, this is additional concern or need, then I bring a budget amendment request before council, and y'all say yea or nay. Otherwise, we limit ourselves to the budgeted amount that council already approved.
And if it's
And we
not-
ensure that we stay under this amount. If that means that we've addressed 100 dogs in 1 year or 50,
I think you're right. I mean, I think that we need to address that on next year, on that issue, because we have, like, with streets, because we're still having issues with our roads, we need more
That's on there.
roads, we need
and
more.
that's in
It's
there
on
too.
there.
Yes, ma'am, but is that enough to take care of the extra roads that we made? Because we have a lot of issues, a lot of roads, not just that though. We have infrastructure, like you said, with the water coming through, we have a lot of people that have red water that's coming through, and where you say that the chemicals are eating the pipes that are underneath the ground, that are eating the pipes, and that's what's coming out of there. So how do we answer about the infrastructure? Because water is very important. So how do we answer that? Do we use some of this for that as well, or
It's
no?
not.
Well, this is This is money that's generated by our ad valorem tax, and we're not using that for utilities.
Okay.
Utilities is under our revenues derived from utilities.
Okay.
So utility revenue would pay for utility infrastructure, and that's also in the budget, and that also does not account for any kind of water rate increases.
Okay.
Our budget currently as written does not account for any water rate increases or any other fee increases other than that 1.5% for garbage.
Man, I don't think we need to keep raising all these taxes, man. Everybody ain't got it like that.
Yeah, but the taxes are,
We keep raising
That's the
taxes
least
on
amount.
water, raising taxes on this, man. You gonna have everybody around here broke.
okay, that's why we want that cost to be.
So, so that means that if we discard the cost of living raise and the animal shelter,
The cost of living rate?
so if we do that, then what is the,
It's not
'cause
gonna-
like I said,
Man,
the
too
only
much
thing.
tax.
You won't have
Reason
to
I said-
discard both of those if you're wanting, if your goal is only to get to a no new revenue rate, then we do not, to the same as last year, we don't have to discard both of those.
Okay,
I
so
think
what-
that's good,
Okay,
man.
so what if we do?
All these taxes, man.
Okay.
Everybody ain't got it like
No,
that.
we don't just set the taxes.
I'm talking about this no
think
revenue
values.
rate. That's what we need to
Yeah,
stay
just the
at.
pay. I'm just saying that the
Can't
taxes
keep raising
are-
taxes on everybody. Everybody ain't got it like that, man.
Yeah. But, okay, I'm tired now. But anyway, what John was saying, that you can do one or, is that what it is? So, in terms of the animal shelter,